Gentlemen, at the outset on this Monday edition, there are a lot of issues that we could focus on that point to systemic maladies within our own system. But this system exists because there is this Desh, and for us, Desh or Bharat comes first. Tonight on this edition of The Right Stand, first up, we'll bring to you a story which merits most attention, ladies and gentlemen. The reason being, there are entities across the world who want to thwart Bharat's rise. And the only way they seem to be able to do it, or they think they can do it, is to push us into the throes of yet another conflict and economically drain us as a nation. War costs every nation, ladies and gentlemen, and especially a nation that is wanting to rise and become developed in the course of the next 23 years by the time we turn 100. If we are at the stage of our growth, at the stage of our jump, at this critical juncture where we can actually make that leap as a nation together as a people, if we are embroiled in conflict, if we are embroiled into the throes of a conflict or a quasi-war, ladies and gentlemen, it will hurt us. Because there are nations that can print unlimited amount of currency, but we can't. There are nations who will do anything to protect their hegemonistic tendencies, and they will destroy other nations. We don't, and we won't. But do we not have the right to protect ourselves? Are we seeing the signs clearly? Do the powers that be and those that in government and also the babus who decide on policy, will they preempt this strike, or will they wait for the conflict to come right into our own sovereign territories? The makings are already there with what's happening in Jammu, ladies and gentlemen, with what's happening in Punjab. We'll get you inputs on that too. But here is the larger picture, here is the big picture on the CNN News 18 mega exclusive. Is there a Kargil 2 looming large upon us? 25 years later, should we brace ourselves for impact, or should we nip it in the bud and thwart this attempt right at where it is currently manifesting, ladies and gentlemen? Is this perhaps the West's bid, open bid, to thwart a rising Bharat? Pakistan being the instrument, West being the mastermind. Have a look at this, ladies and gentlemen. In this CNN News 18 mega exclusive, our group editor security Manoj Kumar Gupta has been able to get a document that looks at a global perspective and where it gives us a warning as a nation. A Kargil 2-like threat looms large, ladies and gentlemen. Pakistan is targeting Jammu as a new strategy because our own deployments are stretched, with us engaged at two fronts, the LOC and the international border with Pakistan, and the LAC, or the line of actual control, with the PLA or the Chinese troops. Pak troops are pushing infiltrations via Jammu. There is also the BAT action that happened over the weekend. BAT action means it's not foreign terrorists or jihadi outfits, it's the direct involvement of Pak army cadre. This is a bid to divert attention from international turmoil. Pakistan itself is a bankrupt nation. It cannot do this on its own. Someone has to provide it with ammunition, with money. They have jihadis, lots of them, but they cannot send them here and afford that cost unless somebody tells them, go ahead, we will fund you or we will pay you the money. This bid to thwart a rising Bharat, why? Attempt to divert attention from the Ukraine war or the Ukraine conflict. A Kargil 2-like conspiracy is one, to divert attention and also reduce the impact, the global noise and the global attention around the Ukraine conflict, because the West wants to wiggle out of that perhaps, or move out of that perhaps, and create two theaters of play action. One is Kashmir or Kargil-like situation in this region, in Jammu and Kashmir, and the other one is with the Afghanistan-Iran border. So an attack on Iran, a possibility. There are a large number of weapons that are missing, and the Taliban still at loss as to where it went. This is what the US left when they vacated Afghanistan. These weapons were recovered with Afghan fighter footprints in Jammu. The carbines were there, the M4s were there. Sudden spurt in terror incidents means some of those jihadis are moving in here, and the arms and ammunition which were carted off away by Pakistan. CNN News 18 did this story at the time of the entire strife in Afghan. Afghanistan and the US vacating Afghanistan and the takeover, Taliban takeover, all of this was carted by the Pakistanis and the ISI towards their bases. The larger question is the West using Pakistan to hurt Bharat? And why the West wants to use Bharat? One, they are upset over the India-Russia ties. They did not like our insistence and our position, unwavering position on asserting our strategic autonomy and staying on that path. The only way to keep Pakistan out of China's grip, because CNN News 18 and on the right stand, we put out the fact that the Chinese, the PLA, are paying Pakistan money to secure CPEC. And that means increasing trips of Pakistani leaders to Beijing was worrying the West too. The threat of a multipolar world order, a new world order if Bharat rises, along with it the global south, and then suddenly the hegemonistic tendencies of certain nations get disrupted. It also wants to divert attention away from Ukraine. So these are some of the reasons. But the theatre of play or the theatre of action is Bharat's sovereign territory. What are we going to do about it? SP Vaid, former DGP Jammu Kashmir with us. Maruf Raza, defense analyst with us. Sushant Sareen, senior fellow ORF with us. I'm just going to go across to our guests if they are there with us. And my namaste and Jai Hind to everybody. Let me quickly ask Maruf Raza and Sushant Sareen, as Mr. Vaid joins us. Maruf Raza, we discussed this over the weekend. We had a conversation which was preempting this, but now there are global indicators which say that the Afghanistan-Iran region there will be a flux, and on Bharat's territory, Pakistan will be the instrument. The weapons will find their way back to Taliban because they're all of the US issue or whatever was left behind by the Americans. There are a lot of inside stories to this, but would you agree with this assessment that we are on the cusp of yet another conflict looming large at us, just at a time when we as a nation are poised to take off?
Anand, it doesn't surprise me. Your assessment is pretty much on the spot. But Pakistan is a country that cannot be relied to do anything else but create trouble. Pakistan's establishment has decided that it must draw India into the activities that it is building up towards, because that's the one way the military in Pakistan can get their people to take the military's agenda seriously, because the military must foment trouble in the Indo-Pak context from the LOC right to the LAC to tell people that we are worth the money that we are juicing the Pakistani establishment for. Now, how are they doing it? These attacks in the area of Jammu and adjoining regions, as I mentioned to you once earlier on your program, that, when you leave a territory unattended, then you create space for troublemakers to move in. And since we were so focused on the valley, and the same happened in Kargil, we were so focused on the valley that Pakistan moved into Kargil, which was easy playing ground for them. Now Pakistan would like to create trouble through its various teams. One of them which is figuring in the conversation are the BAT teams. These are teams created by the Pakistan Army, which are guerrilla-like soldiers who are trained to create trouble and be ruthless in attacking us. But please remember that at least 10 years ago or more, there were BAT teams that were crossing over across the LOC into Indian territory near Poonch and Rajouri. And some were eliminated, some were pushed out. But BAT teams, again being revived, it reaffirms my view that Pakistan's army lacks ideas. It will keep going back a few years later to do the same operations it has done earlier, whether they've been successful or not. We go back to 47-48, some wargaming experts in the US told Pakistan that you can take Kashmir away from India if you do a 47-48 type operation with a few modifications and don't have failures by your establishment denying you weapons platforms.
Right.
This time they're totally in control. The politicians are either in jail or sitting at home and hiding. So the military has complete control over the budget, and Shahbaz Sharif is a lackey of the military. What Pakistan hopes to do is to get the world to draw attention, because the US is now both in a state of flux because of the presidential problems, and Pakistan
But we would
is
also
now playing up on American concerns about India getting close to Russia.
correct.
India has its own strategic reasons to get close to Russia.
Right.
One of them is to keep Russia on our side so that Russia doesn't go completely onto China's side. The second thing is Pakistan is going to use all the resources that are available geopolitically for Pakistan to get the issue of Kashmir revived.
Ji.
India has done well in the political context of getting Kashmir some kind of a stability post Article 370's abrogation. But now Pakistan must play its big cards. One of them is to create turmoil on the border areas with Pakistan and India. And the other is to create the scare of a long drawn out conflict.
Ji.
Long drawn out to hoga ki nahi, I don't know, but certainly a conflict.
देखिए,
And a conflict is expensive business.
Exactly,
It's going to cost
sir.
Pakistan $1 billion a day. Can they afford it? But Pakistanis are such, they'd rather go bankrupt than sit and count their money.
But in this case, the assessment is that it's not the Pakistanis don't have money unless somebody funds them, and some entities who have the ability to print unlimited amount of currency are the ones who are bankrolling this, like they have done it in the past. And it's an open secret that there is a deep state within the West which has been orchestrating this, irrespective of which government or who's the president or who's in power. And they have done it, and they've been involved in Afghanistan, they've been involved in Pakistan, and they have bankrolled. Huge billions of dollars have come through for that. But Mr. Vaid, one of the information that we have is the fact that there are a large number of weapons from the Taliban that are missing, and the Haqqanis actually have made a memo that runs into 600 pages that documents each and every total number of weapons that are missing, and there is a full account of it. And that there was an effort even by the Taliban to try and buy back these weapons from who they know has it in possession. So the Pakistanis perhaps were also trying to wiggle out a deal there and make some money on the side with US weapons. But that's not happened because the Taliban themselves don't have this money, but this money is now coming in. At the end of the day, what happens is whatever is recovered here is not accounted to Pakistan, but goes back into the inventory of the Taliban. So there are multiple layers within layers of what we see happening around us, but at the end of the day, it's going to hurt us as a nation. It's going to somewhere derail our growth story if we don't preempt this and if we don't strike before the enemy strikes. Mr. Vaid.
Thank you, Mr. Anand. It is a fact that American weapons have reached and they are being used. You saw M4 rifle assault carbines being used, American weapon which was left in Afghanistan, and they have been recovered here in actions, both in Jammu region and in Kashmir also. And even the steel-coated, armored-piercing bullets, which are basically Chinese, but then they are also being used. Pakistan Army, coming to that general topic, how Pakistan Army, whoever gives them dollars, they are, Pakistan Army is for sale. Whoever gives them dollars, that's what we have been seeing since 47, and West has been using them that way. You saw recently a package given by America to Pakistan, I think $230 million. So in spite of all this backstabbing by Pakistan, West still, the America still, it is strange that it trusts Pakistan and Pakistan's army. And the collusion of China is also, in fact, it suits China. If something hurts India, the China sees India as a competitor, not only in Asia, even the status of global power which India is poised to attain. China doesn't want that, and if with few dollars you can make Pakistan army to do this, I think China it will suit China's interest also, apart from West. And recently we saw how Shahbaz Sharif had a visit to China. You saw the army chief General Asim Munir went there, and I see their collision with Pakistan army, and that's what is reflecting on ground. Now, coming to the kind of action which are taking place in Jammu, this escalation in last 2 years. Initially, it was in Rajouri, Poonch. Look at the military precision with these attacks are taking place, and I have inputs from across that these are SSG commandos of the Pakistan army. They are not earlier type militants. No, don't call them militants. They are
terrorists.
These are bloody terrorists, and they are, and some of them there are SSG commandos. In fact, as per report, the GOC of the SSG wing of the Pakistan Army, SSG commandos, Major General Asif, his name is Adil Rahmani. He is coordinating all this action which is happening in Jammu region. And you saw how with the military precision they are attacking. It's not like earlier attacks when Fidai attack used to take place. This suicide attack, two or three terrorists attack the Santri post, enter any camp of the army or police or the CAPF, and then get killed as 5-10 soldiers, martyred them. But this time, what I am observing, the attacks are initially properly, racket, then surveilled, and after that executing attack, and they ensure that they escape from there. You have not been able to find out the trail of the terrorist after the attack.
So what happens, sir, is what you're saying is, one, that these are trained Pakistani soldiers. They are on Indian territory. They are part of this entire BAT action, and we are seeing BAT action being revived. All of this, Sushant Sareen, cannot happen till the time the Pakistanis are getting some money coming through. Now, either it's coming from the Chinese or it's coming from the West. West largely backed by the US. And that's where this, and they have a huge cache of ammunition which they carted off. And we had done this story at that time also, that they are cutting off with all the ammunition that has been left behind by the Americans. The other aspect that we are given to understand is that the West wants to ease off on Ukraine. Now, unless the attention shifts elsewhere, they will not be able to ease off on Ukraine. The other aspect is global market pressures also compel them, because of energy crisis, etc., to ease the concessions on Russia. So we are given to understand 2 new theatres will come into action that serve multiple purposes for this West. One is this region, Jammu and Kashmir via Kargil 2, and by activating Jammu. This entire Kashmir Khalistan aspect. The other one is Iran. Now Hezbollah has struck against Israel. Increasingly there is a storyboard that is building up to say that there should be some targeting of Iran, and this will happen via Afghanistan. Now if this Afghanistan-Iran region and this region is in a flux, suddenly the attention of the world shifts to this region. Now this is another assessment. How would you see this?
Anand, first and foremost, I think it's great to have Maroof back on the television screens. It's been a very long time since he's been there. So it's a very welcome addition to have him back and to hear his voice, which is as strong as it always has been. So great to have you back, Maroof. But on your question, Anand, look, the report which you have published today, this is probably a kind of an assessment, a kind of a scenario building which has happened. Now, there are some elements of it with which I am more than happy to go along with, and I would be of the same view. There are others which probably I'm not entirely convinced of. So, for example, if we are talking about wanting to open new theatres of conflict, I think there's a very live theater of conflict in the Middle East, in Israel and around Israel. What has happened with Hezbollah, and one doesn't know how that will escalate. Already, we are seeing the Red Sea, crisis unfold. And yes, Iran has been a problem, but will the Taliban be ready to go after Iran? I have my doubts on that, because I think the Taliban have a kind of worked out a kind of a modus vivendi with Iran, and despite all their sectarian differences and everything else, I think they will have a working relationship going forward with Iran, with all the ups and downs, because they are already involved and getting involved into a much deeper and much more serious conflict with Pakistan. So one is that factor. The second factor is on the India-Pakistan factor. Look, I won't entirely rule it out, but I think it will be a bit of a stretch to think that the Pakistanis can pull off a Kargil right now. I think what the American interest would be, because we have not seen the Americans say or hector Pakistan on the issue of terrorism, which has started once again. They have completely quiet. In fact, they've been lauding Pakistan's contribution in the war on terror. Now, frankly, the Americans are not going to look at situations the way we look at it. Superpowers can lose a couple of conflicts and lose interest in some conflicts, but they never lose sight of their interests, and they will always keep all balls in play. So Pakistan is a ball which they're going to keep in play. That does not mean that they're going to give tons of money to Pakistan.
Right.
I would imagine what their aim would be, that the Pakistanis finger us a little bit, and then, as has been our usual want in the past, that we will go like a crybaby, like Arun Chori used to say that, "Mama, come, this guy is hitting me, please help me." So we'll go running to the Americans, and the Americans will then tell us that, okay, fine, but you wanted strategic autonomy, so you should be able to handle this thing on your own.
Right.
I don't think we should go to the Americans and run behind them. I think this was something which we should have anticipated, we should have expected, and we should have prepared for. On the weapons, for example, which the Pakistanis have, I would imagine that the bulk of those small weapons remain back in Afghanistan. There is probably a flourishing arms bazaar also. Some would have definitely come Pakistan's way. But look, remember one thing, even in the TTP and the Baloch freedom fighter strikes in Pakistan, they are using these very same weapons. And that's given them a bit of an edge. We should have woken up to this and prepared for this way back in 2021 when Kabul fell. But as is the way we normally handle defense and security matters, we will not react until and unless the water has not just reached the neck level, but it's crossed the head. So I think there's still time before we wake up and do something about it, and we start preparing our soldiers and our security personnel kind of equipment they need.
Only thing this time around, should we preempt this, and should we not only understand the scenario what is happening, but preempt this scenario, because there's a lot that's happening suddenly and very, very fast. It's been building over the last 18 to 24 months, if not more, in this Jammu region. But now what we see, we had the DGP say that this will be there till the winter action and then they will go back. But is there something more that's going to happen? Because of how this infiltration is happening, not just via the LOC or from Kashmir into Jammu, it's happening from Punjab also. We've just got more inputs here, and then I'll get your thoughts, all of you gentlemen, again. Now, there's a clear change in strategy, ladies and gentlemen, pushing infiltrations via Jammu and Punjab. And we're getting you more information. Our security affairs expert Manoj Kumar Gupta accessing more information. There seems to be zero ground contact of foreign terrorists with OGWs. And even if there is, what's happening is they are just coming to facilitate the entry and then they're vanishing. They're not hanging around, and they're not the ones who are the eyes and ears. Jammu and Punjab are the new battleground for Pak-sponsored terrorism. The infiltration is happening in Jammu and Punjab, backed by the Pakistani army. More than 50 FTs or foreign terrorists have already infiltrated, and they've been supported actively by the Pak army. This is the information we have. Jammu, Punjab, sources are telling us that almost 50 FTs are there from Pakistan into the Jammu region. And in fact, recently, just the other day, there was this group. What they are doing is that they are young, trained, radicalized, who are being pushed, and they're pushed in groups of 4 to 7. And without depending upon local contact in Bharat. They're pushing them without the dependence on OGWs. These terrorists are being sent in groups of 4 to 7. 7 infiltrations have happened in Punjab last week. Sketch of one of the 7 suspects was also released. In fact, they tried to ask the locals something and then they were alerted. But these people are trying to find their way on their own. So let's go back to Maruf Raza, Sushant Sareen and SP Ved and try and understand from them. Would you want to put 2 and 2 together? Would you want us as a nation to say, this is our sovereign territory, there is infiltration that's being facilitated, let's just wipe it out before the build-up happens, Maruf Raza? Should we preempt a strike?
See, Anand, my view is pretty hardline on these things. The first thing is we have exhibited our ability to hit Pakistan at places of our choosing, especially after Uri and the Balakot strikes. And we can do it again and again. So we must now get ourselves together. This peace dividend and all this nonsense can be left behind. And celebrations from Kargil are well done. Thank you very much. But now let's get back to it. We must prepare our equivalent of BAT teams to go into POK and hit Pakistan at their vulnerable areas. Whenever our troops have gone in, Pakistan army and its army mentoring the militants have been found sleeping or rather lethargic, because one difference between our forces and theirs is our officers are willing to put their neck on the line. Their officers are not willing to put their neck on the line. They make their jawans cannon fodder. Second thing is that this conflict scenario will carry on until we wait for one big explosive push from Pakistan to which we can react. I don't think it's prudent. You nip it in the bud. You carry on and hit them. And we know that by understanding, we have details of all the militant camps that they are nurturing in POK. Send your special mission and they will go and hit them, at least in half of them. Remember, when our commandos went in after Uri, hit Pakistan and came back, we were too kind to the Pakistanis when their generals say that if you don't admit, then we are okay, but if you admit, we'll have to hit you back. We have to be like boxers and we have to tell them, come on, hit me and I'll bloody hurt you even harder. So we have to take that approach, and none of this nonsense that the Pakistan army says कि आपने कर लिया जो कर लिया, अब हमको जो है, don't embarrass us more in front of us. We have to repeatedly rub their nose in their own sand. Unless we do it, we will continue to keep debating, you and I, what to do next. And the third and most important thing, we have to tell the United States that, listen, friend, you want us on your side, you better stop humoring the Pakistanis. You might want to get pettily even because Mr. Modi has hugged Mr. Putin. But we are a country that can take care of our requirements. We are not the India of the 70s, 80s and 90s. We don't need your patronship and we don't need you to protect us. We will hit there and we will make it very difficult for you to operate in the Indian Ocean region, which you are obsessed with.
Somehow we have to see, we are engaging in Quad right now, even as we speak, even as we know that there is a machination that's being brewed by the West. We are engaging Quad actively on the Indo-Pacific because that's something which we are committed to. But Vaitsap, how do we do this? Do you agree with Maruf that we should also be covert, but we should be brazen? And we should be far more active and we should let them know that even before you raise your hand, we will hit you hard. If you try to get up again, we'll hit you harder. And we will still say, oh, हमने तो कुछ नहीं किया. Or should we say, हमने क्या किया? लगी आपको अच्छा, ठीक है, banded मंगाइए, हम भेज देंगे आपके लिए. Or, somewhere we got to tell the West that, they cannot continue to use us like punching bags, or they cannot continue to bully us like they are trying to do right now.
Absolutely. Anand, I completely agree with Marufji, and it was nice seeing him after a long time, as Sushant ji said. I think proactive response from India is required, and it should not be just reactive. Uri hua to humne ye kar diya. No, just hit them, and where it hurts them hard. And I think today the technology, you have sophisticated drones, you have all the inputs about where are they have all these launching pads, training camps. I think we should, without even crossing the IB and LOC, we can do that. The bat actions, of course, the Indian Army has been earlier also doing, and let it be proactive. And I think India is capable today. Pakistan is a state in very, very bad shape, and I don't think they can even afford what all, as your presentation mentioned. So I think it's time, and a clear message should also go to the West also, that India is not that India of 90s. Let them be very clearly mention we can handle this. And just because we have a special relationship with Mr. Putin, Russia, I think the way they stood behind us in 71, India owes that India has to stand with Russia. And also, as Maruf ji said, we can't allow Russia to get too close to China also, because we have to counterbalance there. And clear message must go. And I think India should hit back and needs to be proactive. We must use all our means and resources and give back to Pakistan.
See, because it's not going to be easy, Sushant Sareen. And final word here, because one, we'll have to up the recruitments. We'll have to train them faster. We'll have to increase our deployment in Jammu and Kashmir. We should do it actively, because we cannot afford to compromise on deployment in LAC. So how are we going to counter deploy and improve our resources on ground in Jammu? So that's the internal aspect. The external aspect, if it turns into a full-blown conflict, it will bleed us, because it'll drain our resources. If we keep it short and sharp and localized and continue to hurt them before they build up, do you believe that's a far more effective strategy? If yes, then why haven't we started doing it yet?
No, Anand, I don't think it affects your economic growth any which way. Let me make it very, very clear. In 89-90, the Pakistanis started this business. And frankly, once we got our policy framework right, our economy has done well. So if you get your economic policy right, what happens in Jammu and Kashmir really does not affect your economy so much. Or these kind of conflicts we can handle. We are a continental sized country, we can handle it. One. Secondly, but we have to be also careful that it's not just Kashmir and Jammu that we are talking about.
Ji.
We are also talking about Punjab. And if and I hope my fears are wrong and entirely misplaced, but I see Punjab going back to the 1980s within the next 6 months, 1 year, maybe 2 years. Because we are not doing anything about it. We are following a policy of appeasement. We are letting the Khalistani element carry out their propaganda, including from the Golden Temple. The SGPC is openly lauding the Khalistanis, and there is no let or hindrance on that entire propaganda machinery. So clearly we are now looking at K2 once again. So we need to be very mindful of this kind of a front that is also opening up. Right. So we have to take care of that. But I would completely agree with what Maruf and Mr. Vaid are saying, that when it comes to hitting back, I think you have to have a proactive approach. This business that, okay, fine, we'll wait until we can't bear it anymore and then we'll hit back, I don't think that really works. And remember one thing, strategically, Anand, if you were to activate your front with Pakistan at this point in time, yes, there will be a cost for us, but look at the cost for them. Correct. They are trying to divert all their forces right now to control Imran Khan, number one. Number two, to control the Taliban. Right now, if they are going to be committed on the Western front and the internal front, then let's open their Eastern front as well. And catch them into a bit of a bind. This is exactly what happened in the past when they were caught on these two fronts, and they found it extremely difficult to handle both active fronts on the western side and on the eastern side. So I think this is something that we need to be mindful of, and proper planning needs to be done. It should not be a knee-jerk kind of a reaction. proper planning needs
Ji.
to be done. You also have to figure out how the other side is going to react. Let us not imagine that the other side will not react and up the ante.
Correct.
Then how do you climb the escalation ladder? Until now, what we have done is we did a balakot, they retaliated, it was one step of the ladder and then both sides stepped off it. Are we ready to go to the second, third, fourth, fifth step of the ladder?
Yeah.
Are we ready to
dominate? Or do we learn from our other eastern neighbor and start going 3 steps forward and then 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 1 step back, and do it in a systematic way in such a way that very soon cartographically we will say LOC what LOC.
Call of ceasefire.
So is that, can we go back and push the enemy back beyond the international borders and redraw that and do it smartly, like the PLA has been trying to redraw the non-existent border with us for many years? Is that another learning that we should, and should we not do it more proactively? That's the I think the underlying thing, that we should be proactive and not reactive. Gentlemen, always a pleasure speaking with you, and especially on national interest and national security. Have to wind up for the moment, get back to issues, some systemic maladies that we got to deal with, but we'll do that after the break. Stay with us, ladies and gentlemen, where we turn the spotlight to what happened in Delhi and with those deaths due to negligence with the coaching centers. IAS civil services aspirants consumed by an avoidable tragedy. And are the babus who should be responsible being held culpable criminally? Stay with us.
माई भाई, मैंने भी इस बार SIP करके म्यूचुअल फंड में पैसे डाले। तो मुझे ये जानना था कि KYC का चक्कर क्या है?
म्यूचुअल फंड सही है .com या अपने म्यूचुअल फंड की वेबसाइट पे जाओ, पैन नंबर डालो और सिर्फ इतना देखो कि तुम्हारा KYC स्टेटस रजिस्टर्ड है या वैलिडेटेड।
रजिस्टर्ड हो तो
आधार और पैन कार्ड के साथ अपना KYC वैलिडेट करो, जरूरी है और ज्यादा वक्त भी नहीं लगता।
और वैलिडेटेड हो तो
सही है।
सही है माई भाई, अब तक इन्वेस्ट किया ना हो तो
KYC कर लो और मैदान में उतरो।
सही है।
म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार जोखिमों के अधीन है। योजना से जुड़े सभी दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें।
Back on, ladies and gentlemen, and we've just got news coming through at this point. The MHA has actually constituted a committee to inquire into the unfortunate incident at a coaching center in Old Rajinder Nagar in New Delhi. The committee will inquire into the reasons, fix responsibilities, suggest measures and recommend policy changes. The committee will have the Additional Secretary, Ministry of Housing, Urban Affairs, Principal Secretary, Home, Delhi Government, Special CP, Delhi Police, Fire Advisor and Joint Secretary MHA as the convener. It will submit its report in 30 days. But all of this, ladies and gentlemen, has been there for decades, if not many decades, in plain sight. And nothing has been done so far. Did it need to be 3 innocent lives lost, 3 IAS aspirants lost, their lives lost, claimed by the sudden rush of water into that basement area? For them to wake up is a question. Have a look at this. 15th of July. This is a video 10 days before this tragedy. That's an IAS student, aspirant, wading through waist deep water in that same Rajinder Nagar area. And there are people, this video and the audio, there is somebody making the video who's hailing him as a hero for walking through that dirty water. This was the status. No action despite this alarming situation. Have the Babus let us down drastically? Is it time to not just hold them and punish them with a suspension, but to hold them criminally culpable, ladies and gentlemen? And there are multiple reasons why we ask you this. The coaching institute building norms were flouted. Building certificate had no permit for a library. In August 2021, the building completion certificate got allowance to house 2 staircases, 2 lifts, 2 lift lobbies, parking bay, car lift and a household storage. And their flagrant disregard for the norms was actually flagged. Sample this. On the 26th of June 2024, a UPSC aspirant made a complaint against this coaching center, this very coaching center, Rao's coaching center. Civil service aspirant Kishore Singh Kushwaha filed the complaint, and in his complaint Kishore Kushwaha wrote that the institute was running a classroom without an NOC in a basement and that test classes were being run without permission. He alerted on the possibility of a major accident that could put the lives of the students there in danger. He said illegal classes were being run, putting students' lives at risk. And he also said that when he asked this question, he was told that money is going straight to the office of the MCD commissioner. In his complaint, he writes कि मुझे कहा गया पैसा सीधा कमिश्नर के पास जा रहा है. When the MCD didn't pay heed to his June 26 complaint, Kushwaha sent a reminder on the 15th of July saying it is a very important and urgent issue and the MCD must take strict action. This is to the e-portal that goes directly to the LG's office. 15th of July is the same date that video was seen where there was flooding all around. This student wrote back again. Then again, on the 22nd of July, Kushwaha sent another reminder to the MCD asking them to take action as it was an issue of student safety. Nothing was done, ladies and gentlemen. And look at the irony of this. 7 arrests have been made, but not a single person from the MCD has been arrested so far. Amongst those arrested are Rao's IAS Center CEO and coaching coordinator. 4 people who are said to be owners of the basement have been arrested, and there is even one person whose video wading through high water on the street that went viral. He is being blamed for rash driving. That person was driving his vehicle across and he's been pulled up for rash driving and saying that you drove that vehicle and that's why water gushed into the basement. There should have been any class there in the first place. Then some officials have been suspended, a junior engineer, 2 officials suspended, not even arrested. A junior assistant in the office of the executive engineer in Karol Bagh and an assistant engineer in the public works department in Karol Bagh. These are the only 2 people who have been suspended. No criminal action. Whereas this complaint shows that the EE, it's been sent to EE, that's the Executive Engineer Building Department of KBZ, Karol Bagh Zone. Where is that person? What is the accountability fixed on that person? Why has that person not been arrested yet? Why no criminal action and negligence action taken against that person? Again, CNN News 18's exclusive input. Anshul Singh reporting on this. Why no action taken by the MCD is clear to clear the water on the roads. Now, CNN News 18 has tracked down a property owned by local Aam Aadmi Party councillor Aarti Chawla. There is illegal construction in the property owned by this AAP councillor Aarti Chawla. There are sheds and rooms that have been made on the terrace, rented out to students. Basement is being used for commercial activities. Each floor has been given on rent to different people. The said property is just 500 meters away from the site of the incident. The property is a living example of corruption that reeks in the system of the Municipal Corporation of Delhi. The Delhi Municipal Corporation, the MCD, corruption is wrought right down to the last person, including the councillor and also all the babus. What is the action that's going to be taken against the babus is the question, ladies and gentlemen. How can they get away every time? The bulldozer action that was witnessed today, the arrests that have been made today, the notices and the seals that have been put today, why haven't they been done all these years? Why weren't they done on the 15th of July? Many questions remain, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a very, very short break. When we come back, we turn the spotlight towards the United Kingdom. That is Tommy Robinson or Stephen Yaxley Lennon. What happened with him? Is it an open example of two-tier policing that we are witnessing in the UK? Stay with us.
Eat it on time.
माई भाई, मैंने भी इस बार SIP करके म्यूचुअल फंड में पैसे डाल। तो मुझे ये जानना था कि KYC का चक्कर क्या है?
म्यूचुअल फंड सही है .com या अपने म्यूचुअल फंड की वेबसाइट पे जाओ, पैन नंबर डालो और सिर्फ इतना देखो कि तुम्हारा KYC स्टेटस रजिस्टर्ड है या वैलिडेटेड।
रजिस्टर्ड हो तो
आधार और पैन कार्ड के साथ अपना KYC वैलिडेट करो, जरूरी है और ज्यादा वक्त भी नहीं लगता।
और वैलिडेटेड हो तो
सही है।
सही है माई भाई। अब तक इन्वेस्ट किया ना हो तो
KYC कर लो और मैदान में उतरो।
सही है।
म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार जोखिमों के अधीन है। योजना से जुड़े सभी दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें।
The arrest of Tommy Robinson for running an event or conducting an event called Uniting the Kingdom in London has sparked off massive debate. A senior judge has issued an arrest warrant for this far-right campaigner who's often dubbed a racist. Is he really a racist? But more importantly, it was a campaign to say uniting the kingdom. And look at the crackdown that happened. The open case of two-tier policing. Two gentlemen who spoke about this the last time around we spoke when the matters went out of hand in Leeds and also on the streets of London, ladies and gentlemen, are back with us, Pandit Satish Sharma and Adit Kothari. Now, namaste gentlemen, both of you are residents of the UK, so take us through
Namaskar,
what's happened. Pandit Satish Sharma ji, what is this an example of and what happened?
So Tommy was apparently arrested under the Counter-Terrorism Act. Now, he was leaving the country and stopped at a port. Now, the Counter-Terrorism Act is a particularly draconian and very, very forceful piece of legislation. The police and the authorities are allowed to detain a person with a very particular profile. And the profile in the letter of the law is that they can stop a person to determine that they may be involved or concerned in the commission, preparation, or instigation of acts of terrorism. So the powers are granted, but a prerequisite is that there is some sort of indication that terrorism is on the cards. Now, we had 100,000 people who were all in support of the same message that Tommy Robinson was giving whilst he was here in London. You mentioned this two-tier idea, and it's something that we've talked about before, the manner in which anti-Semitism marches are regulated and the manner in which the pro-Palestinian marches are regulated gave a clear indication that two-tier policing was here. But I have a bigger worry, and that is that it's not just two-tier, it may be multi-tier. You know, there is a principle that lady jurisprudence is blindfolded, and that is to prevent her looking at the identity of the person in front of her so that law can be given without fear or favour. Now, the worry is that we have got a Labour government with a Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, who is on record of already expressing anti-Tommy Robinson views in public. We have a police force which has been heavy-handed with particular bias according to domestic protests. And finally, we now have the Terrorism Act being leveraged. The Terrorism Act is never leveraged except where there is a threat to national security. I don't think that's the case. My bigger concern
his campaign was to unite the kingdom, and the Terrorism Act has been invoked against him. But was this act invoked against those who ran riot and ran amok in Leeds, Adit Kothari, or against those who were out there in an open show of what is nothing akin to the spirit of the United Kingdom not so long ago in London?
No, absolutely not. I mean, here is the case where British polity is essentially demonstrating, that they are pandering to a certain section, while they are not. They're certainly uncomfortable with a certain section which actually wants to speak against the political correctness. And that is, you may disagree or agree with Tommy Robinson. I mean, I don't endorse his stance on, his blanket disdain for Islam, for example. You can talk about the institutions, you can talk about the political correctness that the polity indulges in, or you can talk about the academia, the kind of intellectual cover fire that they provide to the Islamists. But I don't agree with Tommy Robinson's, blanket stance on Islam being a danger or a threat to British civil society. So the problem essentially lies with...
I'm sure that the British police does not agree with the Palestinian version of openly supporting the Hamas, whose doctrine is to destroy every single Jew on the planet and wipe out every single Jew on the face of this planet. But they are allowed peaceful protests.
And that is precisely where the problem stems from. That's the intellectual cover fire that they're providing to the extremists, that they're providing to those endorsing, terrorist organizations like the Hamas. And the objective in this case, where they arrested Tommy, when he was attempting, when he was leaving the country in Kent, was very simple. Under the Terrorism Act, you can actually arrest someone and you can have them behind prison for 14 days. As opposed to a standard procedure where you can arrest them for 24 hours with, when they can enforce a bail condition. So the objective was basically to break him further. And what, to my mind, it's ludicrous that someone sitting within the polity and the policy making and the law enforcement agencies do not understand how persevering someone like a Tommy Robinson is.
No, and look at the support. They are holding the British flag. They are not holding a flag that is alien to the British lands. They are holding the Union Jack, and then they have an opinion and they are expressing it. And the Riot Act has been read, and the Terrorism Act has been invoked, and that's what's being done. Isn't that in sharp contrast to what was witnessed last week? Gentlemen, we will speak at length on this, but I have to wind up for the moment. I have run out of time. Thank you. Thank you very much, Pandit Satish K. Sharma and also Adit Kothari. With that, it's a wrap of this edition of The Right Stand. Brass Tacks with Zaka up next. Stay with us.
Co-powered by
अभी कितने अंदर
न्यूज़ 18 इंडिया की टीम एक्सक्लूसिव तौर पे पहुंची है राव कोचिंग सेंटर के अंदर, जहां ये पूरा का पूरा हादसा हुआ है। हम आपको वो तस्वीरें दिखाने जा रहे हैं। सीढ़ियों से पहले देखिए, सीढ़ियों पे आपको बर्बादी की तस्वीर दिख रही होगी, जिस तरह से ऊपर से पानी यहाँ पहुँचा है। हम इधर लाइट इधर दिखाइए, इधर कैमरे को ले जा रही है। देखिए अभी भी यहाँ पानी है। ये बायोमेट्रिक गेट है, दो तरफ सीढ़ियाँ थी लेकिन बंद भी थी बायोमेट्रिक गेट की, बायोमेट्रिक लॉक होने की वजह से। ये दरवाज़ा आपको दिख रहा होगा। हम अपने सहयोगी से कहेंगे वो यहाँ इधर दिखाएं तस्वीरें, और लाइट के जरिए, अंधेरा है हम आपको दिखा नहीं सकते। और ये पानी अभी भी देखिए, अभी भी पानी लगा हुआ है। न्यूज़ 18 इंडिया आपको तस्वीरें दिखा रहा है, अभी भी पानी लगा हुआ है। और अंदर आपको लाइब्रेरी में बैठने की जगह जो है, ये जो गेट है बायोमेट्रिक गेट है, जो आपको न्यूज़ 18 इंडिया पे थोड़ा कम दिख रहा होगा। लाइट नहीं है हमारे पास, लेकिन हम यहाँ पहुँचे हैं बहुत मुश्किल से और आपको वो तस्वीरें दिखा रही है। देखिए पानी निकासी का काम अभी भी जारी है। और इधर देखिए बर्बादी की तस्वीर। लाइब्रेरी अंदर चल रहा था, स्टोरेज की परमिशन मिली थी, लेकिन लाइब्रेरी अंदर चल रहा था। लेकिन न्यूज़ 18 इंडिया की टीम आपको वो तस्वीरें दिखा रहा है जो एक्सक्लूसिव है। इधर थोड़ा लाइट और आगे, ये देखिए, ये बायोमेट्रिक गेट है। और ये बायोमेट्रिक गेट भी कंट्रोल था इसका, जो हमें जानकारी अब तक मिली है। अभी तो जांच का विषय है, लेकिन आप तस्वीरें देखिए, यहाँ तक पानी भर गया था। ऊपर देखिए, हम अपने ये देखिए पानी टपक रहा है। ये पूरा का पूरा पानी भर गया था। एनडीआरएफ की टीम आई, बाद में यहाँ के जो फायर सर्विस एमसीडी के लोग आए और उन्होंने पानी निकालने का काम शुरू किया। ये देखिए अभी भी पानी लगा हुआ है।
Did you meet the police? What are they telling you? What is the process, that you have come to collect the Nevin's body? So what is?
Yeah. Yesterday I met the Rajinder Nagar police station. So they explained how the tragedy happened yesterday, right? So we understood it's a real tragedy. Okay, we understood, and they have collected my chechi and the cousins that authorization letter along with my ID card. Right, so today morning they will come tentatively 10 o'clock to the medical college, and they will start the postmortem morning itself. So we are expecting Navin body by around 1 o'clock. So we are going to hometown after that.
What is the demand of the family right now?
So there is no demand at all. I would say it's a request. There is no demand. I would say it's a request. So first is that why these kind of things allowed in our capital? Okay, that's thing. Okay. So that also a reputed institution. IAS, it's a reputed course, no.
Yes.
How they allowed this? It's not a chota mota institution or unorganized. It's an organized institution. How they are allowing this? That is the first question. So we have to take a remedial on this. Second is, as I earlier told, no, we have to identify how many institutions we are running in pan-India across, not only Delhi. If at all any like institution like this, students know, we have to alert them and they have to uplift the institution. We should not have this kind of tragedy in future.
This is CNN News 18 and Federal Bank Primetime Studio.
Hello and welcome to Brass Tacks. I'm Zaka Jacob. We're coming to you live from the CNN News 18 and Federal Bank Primetime Studio. Tonight, 3 innocent students have died in the basement of a Delhi coaching center. These were people who came from different parts of the country. They came to Delhi, the national capital, to study and to crack the IAS exam.